Everyone knows going into the 2021 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills need pass rush. I'm going to go over some of my favorite defensive ends of this draft and give you some of my sleepers for later rounds. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Billievers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to this 2021 draft edition of Billievers Talk, where we're going to take a look at a specific position group for the Buffalo Bills to look into in the 2021 NFL Draft. Again, guys, thank you for joining me. My name is Joe. If you're not already subscribed to Billievers Talk, make sure you hit that subscribe button for continual Buffalo Bills and Buffalo sports news, keeping you up to date on free agency and the NFL Draft. And in this episode, we are going to talk about the biggest position of need for the Buffalo Bills, the pass rusher, the edge position going into the NFL Draft. Now, me, along with most of the rest of Bills Mafia, believe that the edge rush position is the position of need most. The defensive end position is the position of need most for our Buffalo Bills, as they didn't get a substantial amount of pressure using their front four last season. We paid our defensive line the most of any teams in the NFL last year, and we expect to see more pressure from the front four. Plus, what you saw in the Super Bowl, Tampa Bay was able to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes with the front four. Now, I know Kansas City had two offensive linemen down, but that does not mean that we still can't get better on the defensive line and make it even harder for some of the best offensive linemen to go up against. So I feel like the Buffalo Bills need to address defensive line in this draft. Maybe not in the first round. That really depends on how the board looks at pick 30. But these are some names that I'm really interested in, and then I also have some sleepers in case the Bills have to wait to day 3 to draft an edge. So let's talk about this edge position. And again, if you watched my previous episode, I did rank the position of team needs by position, and edge rush was that number one spot that I feel like the Buffalo Bills need to do a better job filling that role. So let's talk first about my favorite defensive end in this draft, right? A guy that I would love to have if he's still around at number 30, or even if the Buffalo Bills have to trade up a little bit to get this guy. He's someone that I've circled, starred. I really like him a lot. It's Jaelan Phillips out of Miami University, out of the U. Had a really good year last year in 2020, talking about 8 sacks, 15.5 tackles for a loss. And he just creates havoc in the backfield. As you watch film, as you see him create around the edge, he has multiple moves in order to beat an offensive tackle, which is awesome. And he also can get back there quick, right? He's a quick guy, has a lot of speed, has a lot of athleticism. And when you're looking at a guy sitting at 6'5", 266, he still has mobility there, right? Able to move side to side, north and south. He's able to move upfield really quick, a really fast first step, and that's why I really love Jaelan Phillips. Now, when you're looking at Jaelan Phillips, again, a lot to love, and if you watch the tape, you'll fall more and more in love with him like I did, but you have to be concerned about his injury history. So he started off at UCLA, and guys, this is a guy, by the way, had over 20 sacks his senior year in high school. This guy is a beast, but this is a guy, you're talking about a guy who started his college career at UCLA, and after 2 seasons, roughed up with some injuries, right? Some minor injuries here and there, and then he suffered a concussion, and he decided, you know what, football might not be the best fit for me. He decided to retire from football. That lasted 1 year. He stopped going to UCLA, retired from football, and then he actually started going to Miami University, and that's where he played his senior season in 2020. And looking forward to what he can provide in the NFL, and hopefully looking forward to see what he can provide for our Buffalo Bills. We move on to the next defensive end, and we actually are going to stay at the University of Miami. Now, I'm not as high on this guy as some others are. I actually have him as my 4th favorite defensive end in the 2021 class. But we're talking about Gregory Rousseau. Gregory Rousseau actually opted out of the 2020 NFL season, a little bit bigger than Phillips is, standing at 6'6", 260 pounds, but with that bigger body, with that bigger frame, it hinders his agility, his ability to get into the backfield as quick as someone like Jaelan Phillips does. However, you talk about a guy who has more toughness. One of the weaknesses of Jaelan Phillips is he has a hard time he can be blocked by a one-on-one block. This guy, it's a little bit tougher, right? Because he's a bigger body, bigger frame. So a lot of people like Gregory Rousseau, but I have some red flags, and here are my red flags. First of all, he's only played one college season. He fractured his right foot in 2018, so he was out for the whole 2018 season because that happened in the first game of the season. And then, like I said, he opted out of 2020, which, everyone has their own opinions. Everyone's able to do that. That was an option available to the players, so he did that. There's no problems there. But that means he only had one season. That's the 2019 NFL season. Now, he had a great 2019 campaign, but it makes you a little bit worried about what he can do when the season gets into November, December, January football, when his legs might start getting a little tired. What does he have in the tank right now? He might not be in football shape, so you might see, if Gregory Rousseau is drafted by the Buffalo Bills, you would see like an AJ Epineza type deal. When he only plays partially, right? He doesn't maybe even make the active roster week 1, but he still is active from time to time. So if you pick up a guy like Gregory Rousseau, expect a little bit of a project here, but is that project worth it at the number 30 spot with all of that raw talent? Maybe it is. But those are the two guys out of the University of Miami. Now I move on to the next edge rusher. So next, we're going to talk about probably my second favorite defensive end out of this class, and that's going to be Ronnie Perkins out of Oklahoma. Again, a guy that I really like, quick hands, relies on those hands heavily, which is a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because it's a good thing because he can move them quickly, maybe get around a player, an offensive tackle a little bit quicker, maybe fend off a chip block from a tight end, something like that. But it's also a bad thing because it really tips his hands, and pun not intended, but as far as offensive linemen knowing where he's going to go, what he's going to do. He doesn't do great getting around the edge. He doesn't really have a second or third move to go to yet. But when you go into the NFL, it's definitely something you can work on. But that's some of his struggles. But man, you're talking about a big, powerful guy looking at 6'3", 247 pounds. So he has a swift first step because he's a little more agile, less meat on the bone, or less fat on the bones, I should say, at 247, able to get around edge rushers a little bit quicker without using his hands when necessary. But he is also smaller frame, means those offensive linemen might be able to push him around a little bit easier. So that's one of the red flags, a couple of red flags when you're talking about Ronnie Perkins. But probably my second favorite defensive end in this draft. I watched some of the Oklahoma film. There was one game, I think it was Texas Tech, where I saw Ronnie Perkins just played out of his mind. And if you bring that type of energy, if you bring that type of hustle every single game, it's going to work out for you in the NFL. You're talking about a guy has a few years of film on the books, so he has a little bit more wear and tear, but also, at 21 years old, also means that he has more experience and he is more NFL ready than, let's say, Rousseau or something like that is in this draft. So I really like Ronnie Perkins. And then the next guy you look at is Jason Owa out of Penn State, 6'5", 252 pounds. To me, I'm not sold on him yet. I think about a defensive end from Penn State. Maybe I have Aaron Maben jitters or something like that. But when I look at Jason Owa, I just haven't. I didn't see him perform well in the biggest moments, Ohio State, Michigan type games. I didn't see him perform well. He performed well against teams like Nebraska. Maybe he had a good tape against Northwestern. But at the same time, you look at those bigger upper echelon games, and I feel like he didn't play as well as he should have. If you think about first round type projection, first round pick. Someone else who I really, really like, who some people aren't necessarily talking about as much, is Carlos Basham out of Wake Forest. I watched some films on him, 6'5", 275 pounds. I feel like he excelled the harder competition got, and it doesn't get any harder than here in the NFL level. He's a second round type projected guy, a guy you can pick up on day 2. So let's say the board doesn't fall our way day 1. You look at Carlos Basham from Wake Forest, someone that you can definitely keep an eye on day 2. But for my sleepers, I'm looking at Peyton Turner out of Houston, 6'5", 270 pounds, and Ellerson Smith out of Northern Iowa. Ellerson Smith in 2019 had 14 sacks, 26 tackles for a loss, sat out 2020 due to the pandemic. But those are two of my sleepers. You have to think that some of these guys, it didn't help to sit out during the pandemic. But again, safety first, family first. I'm not giving anyone a hard time for doing what they chose to do, especially since it didn't help your draft stock in any way, shape, or form. But still, you wonder if they would have played in 2020, how much better they would have gotten. And you wonder if, since they didn't play in 2020, how much will that hurt them coming into 2021? How much more time will they need of practice? Maybe, again, not being active the first couple games, because we don't know what the training camp schedule is going to look like. We don't know what preseason is going to look like still. So it's all up in the air. But those are the guys I like. Let me know in the comment section who you like. Again, if there's someone I missed, I know Kwity Paye, Michigan's a big name people like to talk about. So there might be some guys that I missed in here, but those are the guys that I like. Let me know in the comment section. Again, if you're not subscribed to Billievers Talk, hit that subscribe button for continual Buffalo Bills, NFL draft, Buffalo Sabres coverage. And again, hit that thumbs up button, leave a comment. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.